Mini skirt on, dip my body in glitter. Platform sneakers, all the boys want a picture. Two foreign cars, I make rich look richer. Save your breath, baby, I'm not going home with ya. Mini skirt on, dip my body in glitter.
Hello. You're now tuned in to the Little Bit A Lot podcast. I'm your host, Kristen. Welcome back to another week. This week is all about Bridgerton, babes. Oh my God, the time has finally come. You already know I gotta get straight into it. We are talking about Bridgerton, and this is probably the season that I've been waiting for the most. We stand Penelope. We want the best for my girl. I'm gonna share my thoughts. I did announce that I was going to be talking about this on Instagram at A Little Bit A Lot podcast. So make sure you're following me because sometimes, I do tease my topics over there. Also, while we're at it, follow me on TikTok at A Little Bit A Lot podcast. Also, before we even jump into the Bridgerton thing, at the top of the episode, I want to thank everyone for your support on last week's episode. Being vulnerable in that way is not really the easiest thing to do. So I really appreciate everyone's kind words and just encouragement through that situation. And also, I also want to thank everyone who has taken the time to subscribe, like, comment on YouTube, and given that 5 stars or that rating on Spotify and Apple. So if you haven't already, make sure you do that to support the show so other people can find it and we can build this community for all the girlies to be themselves in. But yeah, so with Bridgerton, I was seriously so happy with the way that this season is going so far. Just in case you clicked on this video and you don't know, with Bridgerton and it being its 3rd season, I think this is the first time, correct me if I'm wrong in the comments if you're watching on YouTube, that they are splitting the season into 2. So the first half of the season came out already, but we don't get the second half until June. Which it's killing me that we have to wait a month to watch the rest of it. But oh my God, and then on top of that, when I went to go watch the first 4 episodes, I truly thought that I was going to kind of take my time watching it throughout the course of the weekend. But do you think that happened? No, I ended up staying up until 4 or 5 in the morning. Boyfriend fell asleep and I'm literally in the living room sobbing watching Bridgerton. It was crazy. It was an experience and I'm just so glad that I went through that experience. The joy that Bridgerton as a television series gives me is none other. I thought that all of my other previous TV shows that were my favorites, but it's nothing will top the way that Bridgerton makes me feel. And I saw somebody online talk about that, and it's just, there's nothing like it, and it's I love Bridgerton so much that if you guys didn't already know, I posted on my Instagram before on my story of the time that I went to the Bridgerton ball in Chicago. I'll have to attach some pics on YouTube, but me and my sister actually did go to Chicago. Chicago's about 4 hours away from me. Me and my mom and sister, traveled and we made it a girls' weekend. And then my sister and I went to the ball together on a sister date and it was magical. So it's that just shows how dedicated to this series I am. And since we're here, that Bridgerton ball was the best experience I've ever had. It truly felt like I was among the members of the Ton, dancing the night away, chatting with the members of the Ton, and truly back in the day. You know what I mean? I felt like I was genuinely teleported through time. The beautiful decorations that they had up, we walked through this tunnel and it was lit up beautifully with flowers. Then on top of that, they also had portraits of Simon and Daphne from season 1. They also had dresses from the show on display so that way you could see the detailing and stuff in person. They had an area where you could take a photo and get your photo painted. So you take the photo, but then when you get it sent to your phone, it looks a old like painting. It was so cool. And yeah, and then they also had like a bar where you could order like different themed cocktails. So I think I had like a tequila lavender type of drink. There was like legit lavender in there, and I just felt so fancy. They had this like cute little like plenty of photo op opportunities with like these pearls that were like falling down that you could walk through. And the biggest moment of them all was that when I went into this, I knew that they were going to be choosing a diamond of the ball. Like, I wanted to be chosen as that diamond. So I went in there hoping that I would get crowned the diamond at the end of the night. So I did everything that I could do that night to get chosen. Okay. Like, I wanted to be a star. I'm not even going to cap. So I made sure that I was like looking like I was available and interacting with the staff. And they handed us a copy of the Lady Whistledown, and it literally said like, be involved, like try to like actually have fun. So that way, you know, the people that are watching can see. And so as I was like standing around, we had a moment where the queen came through. We all lined up, you know, facing each other, and we made way for the queen. The queen came through and she went up to her throne. So there was like literally like a couch there, and she had her like servants who were like fanning her with the feathers. We genuinely had staff who were like playing the instruments in the orchestra, and it felt like this was legit the queen. And they had a moment where you could go in front of the queen and bow or curtsy. So I'm just like, oh my God, like, you already know I'm going to try my best to do this. Tell me why this happened to no one else the entire night. I was the only one that was picked. This dude walked up to me and he was like, oh, would you like to be presented to the queen? Yes. Yes. So I was chosen that night, no one else, to be presented to the queen. So I'm in my mind, I'm like, oh, they're going to choose me to be diamond of the ball. They're going to choose me. I'm going to be tonight's diamond. There is no way, because I'm the only one being presented. All these other people are just walking up on their own accord, waiting in line and curtsying, but I'm being presented. You know what I mean? So the staff member walks with me as we go up to the queen. And mind you, there's like this lady, I don't know where she is, but she's watching and talking. And she's like, oh, we have some, you know, a fair lady being presented, I see. It felt like I was truly in the television show. Like, you know, whenever you talk about the definition of main character energy, I have someone narrating what I'm doing. Like, I feel like I'm at the mecca of what all things could be considered main character energy in that moment. So she's literally like narrating my life right now, and I just felt so special. And he was like, yes, we're presenting Lady Reynolds. And I go in front of the queen, and then before I go in front of the queen, he tells me that he wants me to twirl. He wants me to twirl on my dress like 4 or 5 times. I forgot the number, but I'm pretty sure it was 5 times. If you're choosing me to be presented and you tell me to twirl, I'm going to twirl the house down boots, babe. And that's what I proceeded to do. So as I go in front of the queen, I do my curtsy, and then I twirl, 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 twirl. And they're like, ah, she's twirling, I say. It was magical. It was magical. And the queen looked very impressed. So at that point, my sister was really happy for me. Everybody was just like, oh my gosh. And then on top of that, I was getting so many compliments. Everyone was saying I looked beautiful. All the other girlies looked beautiful. Like, the support and the love in the air and the joy and the happiness was just so real. And then after that, we got escorted over into another side of the room, and we all went into the ballroom. We watched these dancers put on a performance, you know, for the queen. We had our drinks. Everybody was feeling good. Then we had an interactive moment where they were teaching us how to do this little dance. And then they were like, okay, we've got the moment. We're going to choose the diamond. And unfortunately, I wasn't chosen. I wasn't chosen to be the diamond. I was led astray when I was, you know, escorted to be shown off to the queen. But, you know, at least I got that moment. That moment solidified that I was diamond material, it just wasn't enough for that night. And the girl that did get chosen, she seemed really sweet. Her dress was really beautiful, love that. I'm sorry for her. But I was pretty disappointed. But that still didn't stop me. They had a moment where like the platform that the diamond got to stand up on in the middle of the dance floor, they were like dancing and like other people were like standing up on it. So you're kind of like above the crowd and like you're like on the podium, like everybody's looking up to you. I jumped up on that thing. I'm dancing. Like nothing was going to stop me from having a good time, But yeah, so I just figured that like that would be the opportunity for me to share my Bridgerton experience. I'm not sure where the Bridgerton experience is at right now. I know that they've had it in different areas in the US. So wherever you are, make sure you check that out. Because if you have the opportunity to go to the ball, like it's worth it, man. But yeah, so since, I'm seriously like new to this, I mean, not new to this, I'm true to this when it comes to Bridgerton, clearly, I was really excited for season 3 and I wrote down a couple of notes that I wanted to read off. And I think that my first impression of the season that I thought that was like really cool were like all of the small details. You know what I mean? Like seeing that Lord in a wheelchair, if you got, and mind you, this is going to have spoilers. So if you have not watched the first half of season 3 of Bridgerton, go watch it and then come back to this video. But for all the girlies that have, I really enjoyed seeing that Lord in the wheelchair. And it pissed me off when Penelope was talking to him and then the people were like teasing her about it. Like, dang, like the people of the town are just so unbelievably cruel. It doesn't make any sense. I wanted to fight every single person that was being shady towards my girl. Like, what the heck? The guy in the wheelchair was really cute and he was really sweet. And he really had good conversation that excited her. And that was so interesting because I never thought about lords back in the day who may have been, handicapped. So that was really nice. We love that representation. And they also had, I don't know if you guys noticed when they were presenting the girlies to the queen, they also had a deaf girl who made her debut. And that was really sweet. She was doing sign language with her mom. And you never really get to see like deaf representation back then. But my girl, she looked stunning. She really looked stunning. And then also another little detail that I liked was when Colin came back and he was talking to the ladies, there was a new girl that debuted and she was black, which was really nice. And she was plus size. So, the plus size girl was shooting her shot with Colin and we stand. We stand. So I really thought that the plus size girl making her debut, the deaf girl, the Lord and the wheelchair, all of those were like really nice details that they added to give inclusion and like diversity within the series. Also, I think another thing that I wrote down that I kind of had an issue with was with people complaining about Colin not being himself. Listen, babe, I understand. It feels icky. It doesn't feel right. We do know that Lady Bridgerton herself has said that Colin is her most sensitive child. He's the one that's the most sensible. He's the one that's literally always putting others before himself. But it's like, if you don't know that that's the point, then what are we doing here? Like, no shade, no tea if you didn't get it. But I'm here to tell you that I believe that Colin not being himself was the point. I was on TikTok, of course, and I see so many people complaining about how Colin didn't feel like himself. Like, this is not Colin. He's not a ladies' man. I'm not really falling for the charm. Him winking was cringe. Yeah, I think that's the point. It's supposed to be cringe. Like, in the end of the day, like, the whole point is that Penelope is supposed to be the one that sees through it all. She sees through the facade. That's the gag. I think that there's beauty in showing that people like Penelope and Colin are still finding themselves and still figuring things out at the same time as them finding their love for each other and figuring out their love for each other and that blossoming. Like, it is such a beautiful thing to be able to grow and find yourself with someone else. And I think that's kind of like the whole point of the series. Like, even his mom had that talk with him and said that like she's worried that if he keeps continuing to have this armor up and this shield that he's trying to use to mask who he really is and be who he thinks society wants him to be, that he won't be able to take it off. Like, there's only so much that you can continue to fake it till you make it, until like you get consumed by it, you know? So it's like he was trying to be who he thought society wanted him to be. Charming, you know, being a rake, as they call it, flirting with all the ladies. Those uncomfortable moments where he saw him having those like threesomes with those girlies and the whatever those things are called, sleeping with girls. Like, it's supposed to feel icky. It's supposed to feel like this, something's not right about this. Because you also have to remember the fact that Colin hasn't had a father figure. I believe like his father died when he was younger, so the only person that he's really had to look up to are his brothers. And if you have people like Anthony, who just last season finally grew out of his like womanizer era, that's who he's thinking he's supposed to be. On top of that, all of his friends, you clearly see his friends are just like bros over chicks, you know what I'm saying? Like, we want to turn up, we want to be with the ladies, like, they don't respect women. These are the things that he's seeing. You know, there's not a lot of people in the town who are like Colin. So he just, especially after that like debacle that he went through with the previous season of being like publicly humiliated by trying to cuff up Marina, was her name, and then her end up like being pregnant by somebody else, and he looks stupid. Like, he came back after his travels and just said, like, I'm going to build a new persona. I will never be publicly humiliated again. Like, y'all are only going to see me pushing P from now on. Like, I swear y'all are never going to see me in my flop era again. Like, even if it takes, like, me building a whole new personality. Like, he doesn't want to be put in that vulnerable situation ever again. So, of course, he's going to continue to keep pretending to be something he's not. And I really like that direction of it because it's so relatable. Like, when you're young and you're just trying to figure yourself out, like, there are so many people out there who just like put on different personalities, or people who've like gone through horrible experiences in high school and they're like, I swear I'm going to be somebody new in college because nobody knows me there. So I'm going to try to just like turn up, be crazy, do what I want, and just like be everything that I think other people should, like, that I think other people think I should be, you know? So that was really interesting. And I also think that I saw a lot of people talking about how they felt like the season was rushed. But it's like, I don't really think that season 3 was necessarily rushed, because it's like, you have to realize that we've been seeing this love story and this friendship blossom from season 1. Like, we've gotten more camera time with this couple than any other couple. So I understand that it felt like, okay, it came to a head in season 3, but it's like, that's kind of the point. Like, we literally watched them grow, and then it got to the point where Colin was like truly just like trying to act like something he wasn't. And you have to have a point where that all kind of falls and he realizes like, hey, this isn't really for me. I actually do really care about my friend Penelope. I actually do care about like being a kind, gentle person, and this is who I actually want to be with. And I didn't realize that this whole time, you know? So in my opinion, it didn't feel rushed. Like, we've seen the subtleties of this friendship from the beginning. Like, you can't tell me that Colin didn't low-key feel something for Penelope in season 1 and 2, when every time he looked at her when they were out, he would find her. You know what I mean? If you go back and watch, it's like the only person that would see Penelope when they were out anywhere at any event was him. So it was always like there, you know, up underneath the surface, but it just took some time for it to come through, you know? So I personally don't feel like the season was rushed, because I feel like they already made us wait a million years for us to get to this point as it was. So what the heck? Like, what else do you guys want? Also, I saw a lot of people saying that, you know, when Penelope asked for that kiss, that they felt like they wanted her to just stand up, and they're like, girl, stand up, you know, have some backbone. Why are you out here begging for a kiss? you know, and at the end of the day, Colin doesn't deserve this. Like, he needs to work for it. And to a certain extent, I do get that. Like, in another alternate world, it would have been nice to see Colin really have to, like, fight harder to win Penelope over, rather than just, like, simply getting a kiss right away. But at the same time, I also really understand that this necessarily isn't a bad thing. And people are saying, you know, stand up, you know, have a backbone. But I think this is her standing up. Like, standing up looks different in multiple ways. Standing up and standing on business could look like, I'm not going to take any more crap, I'm going to make Colin work for it. Or standing up could look like what she did, where she's like, I'm going to stop being afraid to ask for what I want. I'm tired of being timid and not going after and voicing what it is that I desire. So I really think that if anything, like, that still is her version of standing on business, because for the first time ever, she's like, no, this is what I want. This is what I need. That takes a lot of bravery. And I think that standing on business and standing up, you know, that's like the same amount of strength that is involved. You know what I mean? So I think that I really did enjoy that. And I think it was really sweet, of course, that before they even got to the kiss moment where she asked for it, that Colin took his time to go out of his way to come see if she was okay. You know, because it was like, oh, like, it was just so hard to see Penelope constantly get knocked down time and time again. You know, it took a lot of bravery for her to be able to be like, I don't want this for my life anymore. I'm going to try harder to really secure a husband, because I literally can't stand being at home anymore. Like, we've all been there. We've all been there. Rather than like the looking for a husband part, but kind of just like, you know, you want to be able to have your independence. You want to be able to break away from your family and just have something of your own. Like, you can, everybody can relate to that during that coming of age type of moment where you're just like, enough is enough. I need my own cribbo, girly. I can't take this anymore, babes. You know, my mom makes me feel like I'm just suffocating. Like, oh my God. And it really was like a lot. And I was just so incredibly proud of her for also not only asking what she wants out of Colin in that kiss, but her staff, and being like, I want to try something new in my hair. My girl had examples, you know what I'm saying? She was doing research. She knew exactly what she wanted for the first time and wasn't afraid to ask for it. Like, I truly just felt like a proud sister in that moment, you know? And like, I know a lot of people complained about, they felt like Penelope's glow up wasn't good enough, but it's like, babes, were you and I watching the same season 1? My girl was looking a little crazy. You know what I'm saying? Like, the hair was something else. The citrus colors in which they dressed the Featherington family should have been a crime, honestly. So for her to come out with this eleganza gown with these sleeves, you know what I'm saying? These gloves, like, what? Chest out, hair down. You know what I'm saying? And the baby hairs. Let's talk about that. The baby hairs were swooped and laid down. I was like, wait, you guys aren't thinking that this is like a worthy level of a glow up, like, eatery? Like, no, she doesn't. She shouldn't have to lose weight for the role for it to be considered a glow up. Like, the glam was there. She even had nails. I know that's not like historically accurate. I'm pretty sure my girl had acrylics on at one point, if you see in some of the scenes. But it was like, she wasn't playing with y'all. I felt like it was a stunt. She was stunting on them. So I don't see why a lot of people aren't satisfied with the glow up. But I felt like the glow was plenty. It made me feel exactly the way I wanted to feel from this glow, you know? I don't know. And of course, like, Colin looked great too. I've seen a lot of people shading the Botox. Look, I don't have much to say about that. I still feel like he looked great. But yeah. And also another thing that I really liked about this was the fact that we got to see Francesca. We already know that Francesca was recast. And I really liked the girl that they chose because I feel like she really looked like the rest of the Bridgertons. Like she really fit in really well. And, you know, I just kind of felt bad for my girl because it was like, again, she wasn't really looking for a love match. She's not really interested in marriage. She kind of only wants to do her special interest, which is piano and music. She's not really interested in, you know, interacting and being social. And she kind of is just like, well, like, I'm just going to do my duty and get it over with and move on. And that really made me feel like she might be autistic. I've seen some different people talk about it, and I totally agree. Like, my girl might have the tism, and I love that. And I also feel like the interest that she had, I think his name was John, the guy that she really truly likes, might also have it as well. So that was really sweet when they had that moment where they were just sitting there and enjoying each other's silence. Like, oh, I live for that. So I know Lady Bridgerton is over there turned up because she's like, yes, my children are having all these love matches. Like, oh, that's amazing. So I'm really excited to see, you know, what happens when it comes to Francesca and her story. But yeah, I really also thought that was like really sweet. Also another funny moment that I thought was so hilarious was this, like, Lady Bridgerton said, I'm owed reparations, Lady Danbury. I'm owed reparations because you were messing around with my daddy. You want to mess with my daddy? I'm going to mess with your brother, isn't it? Like, that took me clean out. That's crazy. Because one thing about those Bridgerton girlies, they're going to love a black man. Daphne, Lady Bridgerton, Francesca. Oh my God. Like, I cannot believe that guy was Lady Danbury's brother. Another moment was where I felt kind of bad for Cressida. So I think that's how you say her name. Did anybody else feel kind of bad for her too? It's like we always have that moment where it's like even a High School Musical where it's like something awful happens to Sharpay and you feel kind of bad for Sharpay. But at the end of the day, they still do such effed up things to make it hard for you to like fully want to like root for them and like see them win. Because it's like, Cressida, what is the problem, girl? Like, we're finally seeing why you're such a jerk. Because your mom is controlling, your dad is strange. Why does he not want her hanging around with Eloise anymore? I will never understand. There's so much pressure put on her to find a husband to the point where she's settling. Cressida doesn't even want Lord Debling. But at the end of the day, like, she was like, a girl's got to do what a girl's got to do, babe. I got to figure this out. And on top of that, I think the intentionality that they put with like the set design on Cressida's house, like, it looked like a prison. Like, why was it so dark and dreary in there? Like, ugh, compared to the Bridgerton home, which is always has so much lighting and it's just like brighter. Like, it felt like a vampire dungeon up in there. So it's like, no wonder why nobody wants to come over there, babe, to Cressida's cribbo. But I did feel kind of bad for her because it's like, it's just hard being a lady. It's hard securing that marriage. But then at the same time, girl, you're going around doing such cruel things, like ripping Penelope's dress. And it's like, what's that about? So it's really, really hard for me to like fully be won over by my sympathy for Cressida. Because at the end of the day, my heart is always going to be there for Penelope. And she didn't deserve any of those cruel things that you've done and said to her. Like, it's a chop. So I felt kind of bad. But at the same time, it's like, girl, I don't know. You've done some unforgivable things. Public humiliation type things. And I that's not acceptable. And then on top of that, like, the big shoulders that they gave her this season with her dresses. It's like, is that supposed to be kind of representation of like a shield? Like, she doesn't want anybody to get too close to her? Because like, what was that? She's got some like monuments just sitting on her shoulders. Every dress, every ball. What what was that? It looked crazy. Also, the Mondrich, is that how you say it? The Mondrich family with the wife and the husband that suddenly acquired the estate. I feel so bad for them because, you know, getting used to being in this society and having to follow these societal rules is so like probably just you feel like a ball of anxiety. You don't want to do anything wrong. You don't want to say anything wrong. You don't want to move wrong. So I understand their stress, and I'm so glad that they came to a point where they were able to relax, especially just like being Black in that time. We did see, I think, in Queen Charlotte, where it was like the integration of Black people getting titles like Lord and Lady. It's still not that like old, you know what I mean? Like being Black in society and a part of like the high class is still like a new kind of privilege at that point. So I understand why they also felt uncomfortable, because they're so used to like being, you know, working class and being people of color in this type of setting is really scary and intimidating. And the fact that like they thought that they couldn't even like sleep in the same bed, it was just like, oh my God, like my heart went out to them. But I do feel bad because it's like, why can't you keep your club? Like, why can't I be a working guy and still be able to be an esteemed member of society? Why does that have to be looked at as like a low class thing? I feel like if anything, it should be looked at as like, this is a hard working man. Like, we respect him. He's pushing the norms because he has this status and this rank in society, but he's also still wants to work on the club. Like, why does he have to get rid of the club? Ugh, that was killing me. That was really taking me out. I also love how like we got to see Kate and Anthony. I love them down. Like, I just love Anthony. Like the guy that plays him, what's his name? Jonathan Bailey. He is so gorge. Like so gorge. So he's just so great to look at. Kate is so breathtakingly beautiful. So like them two as a couple, I know, you know, in real life Anthony's gay, but at the end of the day, like the friendship that they have to be able to give that chemistry on screen as a couple is like chef's kiss. So the fact that we got to see a little bit of them was like everything. And even though it was just for a little bit before they went off onto like another honeymoon, I was still living for it. So really, really glad that we got to see them. So happy with the moments that we had with them before they yeeted up out of there. But yes. And also my thoughts on Lord Debling, y'all. Lord Debling with Penelope, I think would have been nice, but it's like at the end of the day, like the heart wants what it wants, you know. I think that it's kind of just like Edward and Jacob. Like, yes, Jacob, aka Lord Debling, would be the most like realistic and like practical choice to make. Like, you could live a happy and somewhat fulfilling life and still do all of the things you want to do, have your independence, you know, be happy to a certain extent, but at the same time, like, your heart is with Edward, aka Colin Bridgerton. Like, you just want what you want, you know. And technically both boys would be a good suitor, but at the end of the day, it's like it's always going to be that one over the other. So it was really nice to see that Penelope had other options before it was taken away from her, which was effed up. It's like, I feel like that's just so, like, I don't even know the word for it, but it's just messed up how Lord Debling, it was saying that he wouldn't have enough heart, like room in his heart to be able to truly love Penelope, to grow to love her. But at the end of the day, he would like to have her company, but then at the same time, she's not allowed to have feelings for anybody else. Like, huh? I was so confused about that. Also, another thing that I really liked was after Lord Debling left and then Penelope was unfortunately stuck and she's like, okay, well, I guess I can't get married now. I was so upset with the way that her mom came in and was just like, what happened? Like, where did he go? But at the same time, happy for Penelope for standing up for herself to her mom, because she was just like, girl, like, I am in disarray. I am distraught, like down bad. And that's the only thing you care about is like the fact that I don't have a Lord on my arm. Like, what about me? Like, what about my feelings? And it was really, really sad because then earlier in that season, we had a moment where it looked like Lady Featherington really wanted to support Penelope more and be there for her more, but she just doesn't know how to. And I feel like that is just such a good way to kind of show the way that mothers were back then and sometimes still are, where it's like they don't have the tools in their toolbox to be empathetic in the way that they wish they could. So she's just like, well, I don't really know what to do. I don't really know what to say. I do kind of feel bad and I want to be there for my daughter, but I just don't know how to do that. And, that sucks. Wish there were, therapists around so they can maybe do some family counseling and be able to outwardly show their love and affection for each other so she could treat her daughter better and help her daughter feel more seen and heard. But, it is what it is. And I think it's also awful that her mom counted her out for the entire situation from season 1 to 3. She was so focused on the potential for her other daughters to get married that she was just basically telling Penelope that it's like, girl, it's in your head. You're giving a fantasy. I should have never let you read romance books, which was so mean to say. Like, she basically just made it seem like Penelope was so stupid for ever dreaming that she could possibly actually get married. And basically was just like, but at the end of the day, I'm glad you're always going to be there to look out for me. Girl. So at the end of the day, like, you're already basically admitting that you just think that it's going to be you and Penelope forever. And you only really trust your other 2 daughters to give you a grandson. Like, the way that she just never even gives Penelope a chance from the beginning is just like so effed up. And then only when Penelope proves her wrong is she like, oh, Penelope, I'm so proud of you. I knew you could do it. Like, girl, I don't know. I think it also just was like touching because it just shows how complicated mother-daughter relationships can be. It can really just be such a love-hate situation because a lot of times mothers are going to project their own feelings and their wishes and stuff onto their daughters. But at the same time, I also kind of feel bad for Lady Featherington because it's like she's a widow. She's really kind of just been like parenting on her own from day one, even when their dad was still alive. It's not like he was really useful. She would always just be like, I'm trying to like raise 3 young ladies and like debut them and get them through the season on my own. It's not like he was ever really any help. So it's kind of like, it is a lot of pressure to be a lady during that time period. So it's like, it's just such a complicated thing because I truly understand at the end of the day why Lady Featherington is the way that she is. And I know that nothing she's ever been through has been easy and nothing that she does when it comes to raising her 3 daughters and navigating that is easy. But at the same time, I wish she could just do more to be there for Penelope, like, it's just complicated. Mother-daughter relationships can really just be tricky. And then also I just think that my last note is just that overall, like, I just cried because I feel like towards the end, it was like to be able to see Penelope in that carriage scene being treated with just so much kindness and, care, and being able to have someone profess their love for her and someone who's known her for so long and truly sees her for who she is. It couldn't have been like a more perfect moment. Like, you're rooting for her. You want her to win so badly. On top of that, she's giving like mid-sized girly representation. And then people love to say the Penelope's plus size, but it's like, I've seen the dress in person. It's not that big. Like, the lady that plays her, Nicola, I think her name is actually kind of tiny. She's just a little bit, thicker. So she is a mid-sized girl, but it's just like, it's giving mid-sized girly representation where it's like you see so much of yourself in her, where it's like you've always been counted out by people because of your size and your looks, and you're single-handedly proving people wrong that like you are worthy, you can go after what you want and get what you want. So I was emotional. I'm not even gonna lie, because it's like, it was just beautiful. It was just beautiful to see her get the love that she deserves. But on the other hand, it's like, I feel so bad because I know that what's to come is going to be crazy, to where we're going to have to figure out how is Colin going to find out about Lady Whistledown. And like, it's so stressful. It's so stressful. So when the rest of the season comes, I will talk about that. We'll get into it, but overall, like, this may have been all over the place, but those are just a few little things about the season that I really enjoyed. And I can't wait for the rest of the season. But as far as I go, I'm personally happy with all the little details. I feel like the details matter to contribute to the overall bigger picture of the story. So I'm satisfied. I'm really happy with it. So again, thank you guys for joining me. We also have our favorite thing of the week. Favorite thing of the week. Favorite thing of the week. My favorite thing of the week is Charlie XCX 360. 360. When you're in the mirror, do you like what you see? When you're in the mirror, you just looking at me. I'm everywhere. I'm so Julia. Oh, I'm everywhere. I'm so Julia. The music video, song eats. That song just truly makes me feel like I'm in a music video every time I'm listening to it. I'm in a car, windows down, top down, hair blowing in the wind, just pumping my shoulders, serving face. Like, it's just such a good song. It's such a good song. So if you guys have not listened to that song, make sure you check it out. I'll be sure to add it to the favorite song of the week playlist. I have it on my page on my YouTube under the playlist tab, so you can check that out. But yeah, so like, let me know in the comments, guys, what do you think about the season? What are your thoughts? What are your favorite parts? What are your not so favorite parts? If there's anything else you guys want me to discuss before we get into the rest of season 3, let me know. But yes, and with that, I will see you guys next week. Bye.
Forward cause I make rich look richer. Save your breath, baby, I'm not going home with y'all.